Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into what I think is the ultimate historical paradox. Imagine being a teenage boy, born in a poor farming village, and then suddenly, you're forced to lead an entire nation that's under active threat. The pressure? Absolutely unimaginable. But the craziest part is how he handled it. He didn't use armies or aggressive statecraft. He used radical kindness. Let's get right into it.
Just think about this for a second. Compassion is the radicalism of our time. This incredible thought from the Dalai Lama is basically the beating heart of our story today. It totally flips conventional wisdom on its head. The idea that you need aggression or force to show strength. Instead, it frames empathy as this profound, literally world-altering superpower.
So, the big question we've got to ask is how exactly did a teenage boy lose his country, yet somehow conquer the world with kindness? It's this massive collision of high-stakes statecraft and unshakable spirituality. We're going to look right at how he navigated these impossible leadership challenges during his youth and later in his exile. What we're looking at here is an extreme duality. On one side, you've got the harsh, immediate demands of political duty, right? Protecting your people, going toe-to-toe with military leaders. But then, on the flip side, you have this incredibly strict spiritual mandate to maintain inner peace and practice absolute nonviolence. Balancing those two totally opposing forces, that's exactly what makes his journey so uniquely compelling. Section 1. The Chosen Boy. From rural village life to the Potala Palace. This timeline is just wild. Born in 1935 as Lamo Thondup to a poor farming family in the tiny village of Taxur, his whole world flipped upside down just 2 years later. Legend has it that monks followed these spiritual signs, and when this little toddler recognized objects from the previous Dalai Lama, boom, he was identified as the 14th Dalai Lama. By age 4, he was whisked away to the massive Potala Palace. In the blink of an eye, a rural farm boy becomes a spiritual leader and suddenly the political shield for his entire people. Now, while most kids his age were just out playing freely, he was locked into this intense daily routine, studying Buddhist philosophy, meditation, politics, you name it. But here's the thing, he kept this amazing sense of joy and curiosity. He actually loved taking apart and repairing watches. He was fascinated by science, and very early on, he figured out that brains alone aren't enough, saying knowledge without compassion has no meaning. That specific balance of intellect and empathy, that became the absolute bedrock of his leadership style.
Section 2. The Weight of a Nation. The 1950 Chinese military invasion.
Everything changed in 1950 when the Chinese military entered Tibet. All of a sudden, at just 15 years old, the Dalai Lama was forced to take on full political responsibility. Think about the crushing weight of that. When most 15-year-olds are just, trying to figure out high school, he was traveling to Beijing to negotiate face-to-face with Mao Zedong. He was desperately trying to protect Tibetan culture and freedom while somehow sticking to his spiritual vow of absolute nonviolence against a massive military force. But despite his best efforts, the tensions just kept escalating. Fast forward to 1959, and things got incredibly dangerous. Thousands of Tibetans were terrified for his safety, and this forced a genuinely harrowing decision, dropping us right into a massive cliffhanger. How do you lead a nation when you've literally lost your homeland?
Section 3. Escape into exile. The Himalayan crossing.
The reality of the situation called for some drastic, terrifying measures. Fearing for his life and what would happen to his people, the Dalai Lama actually disguised himself as a soldier. And right under the cover of darkness, he slipped out of Tibet with just a small, trusted group. And they weren't just stepping across a simple border here. They were risking absolutely everything. They had to navigate the freezing, totally treacherous Himalayan mountains on foot, dodging patrols through some of the most unforgiving terrain on the entire planet. For weeks, this young leader and his followers dealt with punishing weather, severe hunger, and just total, terrifying uncertainty about tomorrow. Finally, he makes it to India as a refugee. Yes, he had lost his physical homeland, but crucially, he completely refused to lose his spirit. Section 4. Compassion over revenge. The strategy of kindness in India.
Look, going into exile could have easily destroyed him emotionally. As a displaced political leader, the most natural reaction would be anger, right? Bitterness, maybe even funding a violent insurgency. But instead, he leaned 100% into his core philosophy, famously saying, "My religion is kindness." He made this deliberate, incredibly difficult choice to champion compassion when getting revenge would have been so much easier. So, what does rebuilding a nation in exile actually look like? Under his guidance, it meant focusing on Tibetan schools, building monasteries, and setting up robust refugee communities right there in India. He worked around the clock to preserve Buddhist teachings and Tibetan culture, and he did it all while sticking to a strict stance of nonviolence. Think about that. Preserving culture became a profoundly political act, but one driven entirely by spiritual resilience instead of retaliation. Over the decades, his amazing ability to just remain calm, to teach inner peace and mindfulness, really transformed him into something way bigger than a displaced political figure. He literally became a global symbol of peace. And this worldwide recognition peaked in 1989, the year he won the Nobel Peace Prize. It was the ultimate acknowledgement of how he managed to take immense personal and national suffering and transform it into this profound, universally recognized wisdom.
Section 5. A Universal Legacy. Powerful Life Lessons from the Dalai Lama.
Our sources point to 4 super powerful life lessons here that we can literally all use. Number 1, transform pain to growth. He lost his home, but he never let that suffering curdle into hatred. Number 2, use compassion as strength. We kind of tend to mistake kindness for weakness these days, don't we? But as he proved, staying peaceful in the middle of a nightmare takes incredible mental power. 3, cultivate inner happiness. Real peace doesn't come from outward success. It's all about gratitude and self-awareness. And finally, 4, forgive to free the mind. Forgiveness doesn't mean you're just accepting injustice. It means you absolutely refuse to let anger trap your mind and control your soul. It's an incredible blueprint for inner balance. Be kind whenever possible. It is always possible. That quote right there, that's why his legacy is so much more than just the story of a monk or a politician. It's an absolute masterclass in resilience. It's a reminder to humanity that true greatness is really measured by how we treat people, especially when things go wrong. Compassion isn't a weakness. Honestly, it's one of the highest forms of human intelligence. So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a final provocative thought to chew on today. In a noisy, deeply divided world, how will you use compassion as your own radical act? Thank you so much for joining me. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.